Welcome to I See You, a podcast where we know that human connection restores mental health and resilience. I'm your host, Julie De Jesus, and I see you. Let's be friends. Welcome, everybody, to the I See You podcast. We are here for another episode. I am your host, Julie De Jesus, and I'm really excited to have my friend Tobie Spears on here, who is the founder of an organization, a nonprofit that does a lot of really cool things in Guatemala, and it's called Be Humanitarian. We're going to talk more about how she got started and how it has everything to do with human connection. But Tobie, welcome to the podcast. In our world today, do you ever feel like real, authentic human connection is becoming less of a certainty and more of an anomaly? Well, good news. It doesn't have to be that way. I'm Julie De Jesus. I'm a keynote speaker, an author, and a corporate trainer. I speak all over the country about how to utilize human connection to improve mental health, resilience, and even work performance. If you know a group looking for a speaker, you can contact me at julie-dejesus.com.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. It's so good to be here. It's so fun to talk to you. You know, this is my favorite subject. So I'm happy to talk about humanitarian work and connection anytime I get the chance.
Well, that's literally why some people are like, do you have some questions I can glance over to know? And with you, I was like, we're just going to talk about what you love. So let's go. Because we know each other from some different things, but humanitarian is something that I always want to hear from you about, and I think you like to talk about. And it's really neat. It's really neat how you've chosen to see people with the resources and the time that you have. It's really been inspiring for me, which is why I wanted you to come on I See You podcast. So tell us just a little bit more about yourself, just like your life, your family, hobbies, whatever you want.
Happy to do so. My husband and I have been married for a long time, nearly 30 years, which is absolutely insane. And we have two awesome girls that are both studying college, in their college years. And we've got a couple of international exchange children that we've taken under our roof and loved as our own. So we have a bigger family than we imagined having. And we have 45 kiddos and their families in Guatemala that we work really hard to support. And so our family and my motherhood story is a little bit different than others. I have a heart that had room, which was really quite cool. It had room to have so many little ones in there.
Yeah, I love that. Will you tell listeners a little bit about your upbringing and the way that I think has played a role in what you do now with Be Humanitarian?
Yeah. My mom left my dad when I was 10. And so we were like that normal family, the normal family with a car and with two parents. When my mom left my dad, then that was like a really interesting shift. And we went from what seemed super normal to being the very abnormal. We were the only single family household in our neighborhood. We moved from Texas to Utah so that we could be closer to my mom's family. And so it was a big shift. We also went from my dad working and paying the bills to my mom being a single mom with 6 of us under the age of 13 and living on welfare and housing assistance and food stamps and all of the things that this country offers to children and to families in need. So I learned that at a very young age, and I was very grateful for those opportunities that we had. As a child, it was very embarrassing to receive help from strangers. There's this uncomfortableness about receiving when you can't provide for yourself, in my experience. And so that was uncomfortable as a child. But when I became a mom, then I wanted my girls to see what life was like for so many others. So that's when we really put travel into our everyday lives, where we would do humanitarian travel and developing country travel, where our kids could see what life was like, because their lives, thankfully, were not like my childhood years. And so that we could just see that juxtaposition. There are billions of people that live without so much, just the basics. It was really important to me as a mom that my kids knew that and that they saw that.
Why do you think that was so important to you as a mom, that they saw that other perspective?
I think it was just because thankfully, like, it wasn't their personal experience, right? That's fantastic that it wasn't their personal experience, but I think it's a valuable experience. And to go without teaches innovation and being scrappy and, being tenacious and being dedicated. And sometimes having everything just handed to you may or may not create that same drive. So I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to raise them in a world without food or without security or with electricity shut off notices showing up at the door every week. But I would like them to see the blessings that their lives had just because of the continent that they were born in and the color of their skin, that none of that had anything to do with them necessarily, just really a big, huge stroke of luck. I think those are all very important things.
Absolutely. It's really neat to me that I think experiences like you had growing up, some people can relate to in different ways. There are parts of that I really relate to, growing up on welfare and things like that. But I think that there is a choice to be made if it's going to make you softer or harder towards the
Mhm.
world and to people and situations. And I really think it's a bold and powerful choice to choose to let it make you more compassionate towards others. And it's a choice that we all have. I think it's a more peaceful, joy-filled choice. How have you seen, because you've taken people on trips to Guatemala many times. That's something that you do with Be Humanitarian. What kind of changes have you seen in people as you take them, kids, adults that haven't been exposed to seeing people in this situation where they don't have as much provided for them, where they do struggle for the basic needs?
Right.
How have you seen the changes in the people that are seeing that for the first time?
It's a huge, humongous eye-opening experience. There's just no way around it, and it's beautiful because it should be. Like, that should be eye-opening to see the experiences of the billions of people that don't live in a first world country. So, it's eye-opening. I've had students that have changed their majors that have said, "Oh my gosh, like, I want to do something where I can make money and do good in the world," instead of it just being
Hmm.
like, I need to make money as much as I can. Like, that is the reality, is that I believe it's our job to look out for those that are in need. And that if we can, we should. And just simple as that. So, I mean, I've had parents in
Hmm.
tears. I've had volunteers just in tears. And it's not tears of sorrow, because that's never my goal, but it is an awareness.
Hmm.
So, and once you have that awareness, then you have the opportunity to choose to do something about it, to become a sponsor, to get more involved. And like, Be Humanitarian isn't me saying, come with me, join me in Guatemala, sponsor one of my kiddos. It's that. And like, we can do more as a society, as a human species. And that's my invitation to everyone, to be humanitarian, to think about others, to look for ways of service, to look for those that are suffering, and to play your part in making the world a better place.
Well, absolutely. And the reason I wanted you on ICU is because, you know, talk all about human connection and the power it has to improve mental health and resilience. Connecting to people that are very different from us, as far as just that they were born in a different place with a different hand that they were dealt than us. Have you seen any examples? Well, I know you have, so I feel even dumb asking the question. I guess I should say, what's an example that comes to mind of a pivotal moment for you when you've connected with someone in Guatemala that you feel like improved your mental health and your resilience, or theirs, or both? I think those interactions can feed both. What's a story
Yeah,
that comes up for you?
there's so many. And
I know I have
it's
one that I'm thinking of, but I'm like, there's so many I want you to choose.
I know. Well, maybe you can help me narrow it down, because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so
You
many.
think about the kid that gave you a small offering. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that the offering is what they can give. And so, I've been gifted items, and it is actually quite difficult for me to accept. It's, when I know their living circumstances, I know that their family struggles to just put food on the table, and they want to give me a gift that I
Ugh.
know costs money, that is so hard for them. It's such a gift. It's really not just like the the gift certificate, that's like, "Oh, here you go," from someone that has. It is the gift from someone who doesn't have. So it can be really challenging for me to be like graciously accept it and not be like, "Oh, no, no, no. You should keep this. Like this your family needs this. Use it for yourselves." So there's so many. I am gifted beautiful offerings from our families in our community of scarves and earrings. I have stones, I have necklaces, I have an apron from a woman who I complimented her apron, and she
Mm.
just took it off and said, my gosh, you would love this. You should have this. I have shirts and these beautiful, like typical clothing that is ceremonial in the Mayan traditions. And so, like, things that really mean a lot, like a sticker, like the one you're talking about, is the little boy. And that's what he had to give me, was a sticker. And I mean, I still have the sticker. It's been 13 years and I know exactly where it is in my home because
What's it a
it's
sticker
something.
of?
It's a dinosaur.
I was thinking, I remembered it as being a turtle. I was like, I think it's a turtle, no, a
So
dinosaur.
it's the cutest. So, I mean,
Mm.
it's so beautiful to be the recipient of true giving instead of like obligation or, like
Mm.
this you give me something, I give you something. It's just this pure gift. And it's beautiful.
That is beautiful, and I think speaks a lot to the value we put on monetary things,
Mm.
the value we put on what just the meaning we put behind on how much we spend on something and what that will mean to someone. And I think there's something to be said for like, I don't know, I think of it as like an onion where you're like peeling back the layers of like, okay, like the size of house, that, all these things that distract us of like that we put value on in life. And when you get to the core of, okay, do they have a home? Do they have a place to go to the bathroom? Do they have clean water? Do they have food to eat? Do they have clothes to wear? I would like to think, and I believe that it brings into very clear, stark perspective what matters and what doesn't. And I think we all have, and we're born with light to intuitively understand that when we get back to that. I think just over time and in life, we get distracted a lot. But I think everybody or almost everybody has the ability to go back to that if they're exposed to some other perspectives, which is, I think, so much of the power of what you do, not just the service you're giving to the people in Guatemala, but I really feel like it's a service to people here to get themselves outside of just their world, which also I think can increase our ability to be resilient because it reminds us that we're not alone in struggling and that there is a way to still be happy when we see other people doing it in circumstances that are very different than ours.
A good friend who came, we were strangers when she came to Guatemala, and she's a wealthy, educated, very successful woman, and she wanted to bring her 16-year-old daughter. And it's common, it's very common, like as the parent, that you want your child to be exposed to this kind of reality. But the biggest takeaway was her own change, her own shift, her
Mm.
own awareness. She's like, I have traveled around the world and I have never seen this part of it because I've gone to five-star resorts and I've flown there and gone and sat on the beach and drank pina coladas and then flew back. And I'm like, oh wow, I went to this country, but I didn't see it, like
Mm.
you didn't get to like taste it and
Yeah.
envision it and talk to the people and see their homes and see, like, actually see it. So I think some of the biggest life altering experiences are often from adults, just because we have like a little bit more life under our belt and we've seen a little bit more. And as a mom, to stand in another mom's home and
Mm.
to see just the absolute pride that she has to show me her half a house, because she's been building brick by brick, brick after brick after brick. And she has like the foundation down. And it's just pure pride and enthusiasm to be able to show off the work that she's doing. And in my mind, I think, oh my gosh, this is going to take you 10 more years to finish, brick by brick, to finish this home. And so that's some of the most beautiful part of it, is that for $10,000, me and a group of volunteers can go down and spend a week in Guatemala and we can build her a house. That's not half a house. That's a real life house that has doors and windows, and that's safe for her and her daughter to live in. And it really was such an easy gift. It was like a great group of people. We worked, we laughed, we had fun, we ate great food, and we got to leave with a sense of accomplishment, with a sense of like teamwork, and we got to give her a house. And that's fulfilling for all of us on so many different levels. And then just the ability to be like, she's got a safe place to live for the rest of her life.
Absolutely. I want to ask you a question that I've asked you before, but I want to ask you again. I want to understand and have our listeners understand your perspective in response to this. I remember I was speaking for free for a nonprofit and getting involved in donating to a nonprofit that was overseas, that was helping in third world countries. And I've had more than one person that came to me and said, when I told them about it, like, I just realized that I really can't do anything about that. Nothing I do is really going to make that big of a difference. And so I can only do what I can in the walls of my own home. Which,
Mhm.
do I think that is where we have the greatest impact? Yeah, probably. And I do think it's incredibly important. And what we do in the walls of our own home does have a ripple effect on the world at large. What do you think about that comment? How do you respond to those kinds of narratives or comments from your perspective as someone that has been a mother in the home, knows the importance of that, and also chooses to do this work outside the home?
Yeah, I mean, I say you do what you can. So if that is the full for you, and living a life of happiness and creating a household of peace and security for your children and your family, that's beautiful. I mean, like that's one of my favorite quotes from Mother Teresa. Like, how do you create world peace? You go home and love your family.
Mm.
So if that's what you can do, and that's where you're at, and that's the most that you can do, that's great. And it's needed, and it's more valuable now than it might have been in the past. Like we
Mm.
need that. We need those strong family bonds. But if you have a little bit more to give, then I think the real problem is that sometimes we look at big problems and it's too big of a problem, and we think, and it's like this paralyzed, like, I can't fix that. I don't know how to fix that. And so that's why I have loved my work, because it's really a very small grassroots organization that we love our work. We are volunteers, and we have been able to provide thousands of meals a month to our kiddos and millions of meals a year to our families and our communities. And that's just one small group of people. So I think for me, there's hope in knowing that a small group of dedicated people really can make a positive impact on the world, and that we are doing that. And then that's the invitation. Like, if you have a little bit of extra, if you have a little extra energy, a little extra money, a little extra time, then after your home is full of love and safety and security, then look outside of yourself and see what you can do for someone else.
And I think that's a very compassionate response. When I heard that in the moment, I felt kind of annoyed. I'm not going to lie. I felt my natural instinct was to feel a little annoyed of like, well, you could say that for anything. Like, just, well, I can't fix the whole thing, so why even try? But I like what you're saying because I can relate to. I know there's been times in my life where doing anything but keeping my kids fed and alive felt so incredibly hard. So I appreciate you leaving space for that hardship as well. That even if you weren't born in Guatemala, even if you have money and you have work, that hard is still hard and that everyone deserves compassion. I think that's really the heart of what we want here at the ICU community, is this feeling of like, I'm not alone, and suffering is suffering is suffering. And like you said, when you're in a place when you can give more, like what a blessing to be in that place, and because it feeds both of you, as as you talk about those gifts you've been given, like I'm sure that impacted them to be able to do that service for you. And I know it impacted you. You don't need a dinosaur sticker. Like you don't need one, but it's the human connection piece of being connected to something bigger than ourselves. And I would say, hopefully, as we can, bigger than our own immediate family, bigger to the world at large. I think would and does a wonder for our mental health and our resilience, as we see how much more alike we are in the human condition than different. We can all relate to being a mom, being a sister, being a wife. Those, it looks different, but all of us, that's the one thing, as I've traveled and spoken and done different things, that always becomes so starkly clear to me, is we all need each other so badly.
Mm.
teens, women, men, accountants, firefighters, students, like everybody, it's this same core response that I get of, I want to feel like I'm enough. I want to feel like I'm valued, that I'm seen, that I'm, and it's like this person over here has an MBA and 10 years of experience climbing and grinding the corporate ladder. And this kid just experienced having a friend commit suicide in his high school. You know what I mean? And it's like the message is the same of just, I don't want to feel like I'm alone.
Mhm.
And I think you're doing that so much. I know you're doing that at Be Humanitarian. And also I think it's a reminder though, for the people to get involved, another way for them to connect with humanity at large. And so
Right.
I love that that's your focus, at Be Humanitarian, just really putting that into action with your experiences of being seen, right? Like your experiences of being helped as a kid. And I'm sure that feeds into this and why it matters that your kids understand.
Right. And I think that's the beautiful picture. That's the beautiful story. And that we really can. It doesn't take us just sitting down and being like, I don't have millions of dollars. I don't have billions of dollars. Like, I can't fix these problems. But the truth is that a little goes a long ways. And that, like, each of us really do have the capability. Smiling to a stranger, saying hello to somebody who looks down, that looks a little bit sad, like going out of your way to take the grocery cart from a little person, like an older person that you can see is struggling. You're like, oh my gosh, let me help you. Let me just ease a burden. It doesn't cost you a
Yeah.
dime, but instead, the world is a little bit chaotic and there's a lot of anger out there and there's, tensions are high. So the stronger that we can be with offering kindness and shouting kindness, a dear friend of mine said, that's our resistance. Like,
Mm.
that like kindness is how we resist. That's how we fight back. So that's what I'm going to continue to do.
That's beautiful. Thank you. If before we end our conversation here, I've heard people ask this question before, which is, I want to get involved with humanitarian, but I don't know where to start. I don't know which ones, my donation really goes to what it says it's going to. Have you found ways to tell the difference, to know that the organization you're getting involved with is doing what they say they'll do? Is there some sort of like certification or something on the website that people can, like, what tips would you give people that want to get involved but don't know where to start?
Yeah, on a website you're going to see like a gold star, and there are several different organizations that nonprofits need to be involved with, so that they have our financials, they have our board members, and because nonprofits are public entities, all of our information is public. So you can
Mhm.
see how much money everyone earns and how
Mhm.
much money is donated, the percentages, all those things. And you and me both I scratch my head at this a lot. And I have wondered what it is. Like, there are a lot of people that are like the snake oil salesman, and they have created this really toxic relationship with donors and nonprofits,
Mm.
because there's always like this, well, how much money really goes to those in need, right? And
Yeah,
there's a
there's this defense that's been created, which is so unfortunate.
yeah. And there's this really interesting relationship with that. And the truth is that people believe that running a nonprofit should be done for free, and that everybody should be
Mm,
volunteers, and that no money should be
right.
earned. And then there's the other side to that, that running a nonprofit costs all the same things that it does to run a business. We
Mhm.
have to pay all the same things, the Stripe fees, the MailChimp fees, the
Yep,
CRM fees, marketing
yep.
fees, like the
Yeah,
website design.
you're paying all that stuff that I pay for to make money, right? When
Yeah.
I go speak or right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Every business takes those same bottom lines. But
Yep.
for some reason, there's this very interesting concept that people that
Yep.
work in a nonprofit should not be paid. So I think that's probably one of our biggest hurdles, that we need to
Mhm.
alter that in our mindset, because work is work. And that just because we're working in a location that is a nonprofit location doesn't mean that our work is less valued. So I think that like number one is probably like where we need to put a little
I
bit of
like that a
energy.
lot. Well, but I've come against this and wrestled with this a little bit myself, because when I first got into the speaking sphere, I started with a podcast, this podcast, obviously, and I wasn't making money doing it. It was a passion project, but the truth was, like me and so many others, it's like, well, I'm going to work. I know I need to make money in this situation. And so I can either
I have these skill sets, so I can go do this at a school, or I can go do this at a grocery store. I can do whatever, or I can do this that I also feel like is really needed and helps people and could also be my income. And it's where I feel like my skill set would probably be at its best. And so it
Mhm.
is interesting that we expect people to do those things for free, um, when it's like, well, they can go get a different job. It's just they're filling a need that they see, and you can make money and also be incredibly passionate about your why at the same time. We're not bothered by doctors doing that, you know? And so I love you bringing that up because I do think there is a it's just, let's be honest, it's really easy, and I think we've been on both sides of this, a lot of people. It's really easy to criticize people who are trying to do something different than what you're used to or what the other people around you do. It's just, and I think we do it for several reasons, but one of them being, if I can poke out flaws of how you do things, Tobie, then I can feel better that I'm not doing what you're doing. Maybe there's some part of me that feels guilty of like, well, I I couldn't do that because look what she has to do it. And that's not okay. Or like, I think that's a really normal human response. I think it would be really good for all of us to look closely at that and just to always promote good and light and not be so stressed about motivation. You and I, we've talked about this before, but we talked about Nate Randall, right? As he's the CEO of Gab, and I apologize if I've brought him up here on the podcast before. Nate, if you hear this, I'm not weird, okay? But he's been a great he's just a local example, a leader that I've seen do this really well, which is, I remember hearing him speak at Utah Business the year before I spoke, and he talked about how he uses his platform to often to help single moms get jobs, not just with Gab, but with anywhere. And so he'll have them take over his LinkedIn account for a day, post their resume. He grew up with a single mom. And so he has a special place in his heart. A single dad. Okay, sorry, single parent. Yeah, are you sure?
I'm
Okay.
positive. His mom passed
Okay.
away.
Okay, okay. Good job. I'm like, I have told that story to so many people in person wrong. Okay, so there you go. Everyone goes. Just go look him up. Sorry about that. Anyways, but he talked about in his speech how he has gotten flack for that of like, you're trying to
Mhm.
make yourself look good, right? This is part of your PR, trying to have an image. And his response, he didn't even like say whether or not he is. He just said, okay. He's like, I just don't really care why you think I'm doing it. These people need jobs, so I'm just still going to keep doing it. Like, I just don't care. Like, that doesn't put bread on these people's tables. So like, it's just kind of not worth my time to even respond to that of like, okay, you can think I'm doing it to look like a good
Mhm.
person. I'm still going to try to be a good person. Like,
It's the best response. It's the best
and I'm like,
response.
that is like, because how often do I feel like I need to say, I don't charge as much because da, 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 or I don't do this, or like explain myself of trying to apologize for trying to be a good person because someone else feels insecure, and it's just exhausting and takes away from our energy to do so, right? So
Yeah,
maybe
and
from pop
there are good
go ahead.
reasons to do it. Like, there are so many good reasons, and Gab is an example, and, like, we've got corporate partners that are examples in that work with Be Humanitarian, and there are, like, phenomenal reasons to get involved with a nonprofit, and you'll have happier employees and more dedicated staff and better retention rates. Like, there are actual
Yep.
reasons. So, say what you wanna say, but if you're promoting good, then just let the rest of it roll off your back. Like, that's not important enough to even answer.
Well said. And I think in this space, as I think most of the people that choose to listen to this podcast are people that are trying to see others better, to be more community involved. And so I think that's great advice for all of us as we try and we fail and we try again and we figure things out, that we can have not just grace for ourselves, but grace for other people as they are on the same path trying to figure out what that looks like for them. And just like you said, just let it roll off and just see
Yeah.
people, no matter what, that if that makes people insecure, if it makes them feel like you're different, you're weird. I don't know how many times I've tried to start a conversation with a stranger and I know that I annoyed them. I've been told I annoy them and that I am different and weird and I am too much. Like, this has happened so many times in my life. And there's times when it's really bothered me a lot. But I guess what I always come back to is, I do that in part because I have felt very alone before in my life and felt like not even real as a human being, felt like a number, felt like lost in a crowd and just so isolated in my mind that I would rather run the risk of annoying someone than them feeling like no one notices that they're even there. Like,
Mhm.
every time, I hope that's what I'll pick. And
Right.
I think the benefits of that far, both for me and for hopefully the receiver, far outweigh the people that are like I've been called nosy. I've been right. Like, And that doesn't
Well,
mean that I don't try to be considerate and I don't try to see like, "Oh, maybe there's a way I could adjust that." But in general, I think we are so needing more human connection and more conversation in person, face to face, even if that has to be over a screen, than less to
right.
walk on eggshells more around each other. I think we need to be much more involved in each other's lives if we want to continue to improve the mental health and resilience, not just in the adults in our country and in the world, but in our kids as well.
Yeah. I think what you said is what I hear is that it all boils down to just being connected and to have going out of your comfort zone and
Yeah.
maybe being annoying and risk being that weirdo and saying, look, this is what I want to do. This is the message I want to share. And what I have thought, there's this like visual in my mind is like, I'm running my gas. I'm like full, pedal to the metal. I'm driving along and I look in the rearview mirror and that's my life. I get to see what I've done in that mirror and I'm
Mhm.
proud of it. I'm proud of the life that I've led. And that if, like, when my time comes, like, death finds us all. So when my time comes, then I will be proud of the work that I've done and that I'll be proud of the good I've put out into the world. And it doesn't matter to me if anyone else sees that because I die alone. So it's just me.
I love it. Well, I've never ended an interview with "I die alone."
You
That
know,
one phrase, I'm like, can we please just take out that context? No, I love it. It's so true. It's like, you're the only you. Like, it's your life to choose and no one can do it for you. And interestingly enough, I think understanding that truth can make you feel more connected to others than ever,
Mhm.
and finding people who uplift you in that way. That's what you've done for me, is being around you and listening to your passion. I'm like, man, yeah, I believe that too. And yeah, I want to be that kind of person too in my sphere, how I can. And so finding community, like we try to always do here in the ICU communities. Tobie, thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing more about your work as the nonprofit leader for Be Humanitarian. And if people want to check out
Yeah.
what she does, whether you want to get involved, be inspired, contact Tobie. Her website is behumanitarian.org, and we'll make sure to link that in the show notes.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure. Thank you, friend.
You're welcome. Everybody, we will see you next time on the ICU podcast. My name is Julie De Jesus, and I hope you have a fabulous day. Thanks for being here. Okay, let's be real. Sometimes what I think we need to restore our mental health more than anything else is just a break, which is why I think I need a vacation. And so do you. Join me and my special guest, Tony Overbay, on the first ICU Living Cruise, the mental health cruise of a lifetime. Check out and make sure you grab those early bird tickets at julie-dejesus.com/cruise. And guess what? You don't even need a babysitter. Kids set sail free. julie-dejesus.com/cruise.